Imagine a world where the richest man in the land disguises himself as a beggar, testing the kindness of strangers. What if the only food you had left was meant for your next meal and someone begged you for it? Would you give it away, knowing it might mean going hungry yourself? This is the incredible story of a young woman who showed that kindness, even when you have nothing, has the power to change your life forever. Buckle up, this isn't just any story. It's a lesson in compassion, generosity, and the magic that happens when you give with no expectation in return. In the bustling city of Lagos, where life moved faster than the traffic, there lived a young woman named Esther. At just 24, she was a pillar of strength, surviving on the barest of essentials, yet holding on to the hope of a better tomorrow. Orphaned at the age of 16, Esther had learned early on how to make do with little. Her small food stall, located near a busy street corner, offered the simplest, most comforting meals, plates of steaming jollof rice and crispy fried plantains. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Every morning, just before the sun rose, Esther would prepare the food herself, tie her headscarf tightly, and set up her little wooden table, hoping for enough customers to buy her food. Most days, she barely made enough for herself, yet she always saved one plate of food. Not for herself, but for a stranger in need. That stranger was an old man whom the people of Lagos called Uncle Ade. His wheelchair was rusted, his clothes worn and torn, and his face was marked by years of suffering. Yet, despite his condition, he sat there every day, ignored by most. Some mocked him, others passed him by without a second glance. But Esther, she never did. Each evening, as the crowd started to thin out, Esther would walk over to him with a warm plate of food. They would sit together, and while he ate, Esther would listen to his stories, never asking for anything in return. Even on days when she hadn't eaten all day, she would offer her last plate of food. People scoffed, some even scolded her. "You're poor too. Why waste food on someone who has nothing?" they'd say. But Esther would smile gently and reply, "True wealth isn't in what you have, but in what you can give." Months passed, and the seasons changed, but every day Esther showed up with food for Uncle Ade. Slowly, he became more than just a beggar to her, he became family. He would tell her stories of his past, a life full of riches, laughter, and love, stories that seemed a world away from the present. Esther would listen, not judging, not doubting. To her, he was just a soul in need of kindness. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Esther handed Uncle Ade his usual plate of food. This time, however, he didn't take it right away. He looked at her with deep, searching eyes. "I've been watching you," he said softly. Esther laughed nervously. "I hope I passed inspection." But Uncle Ade didn't laugh. He sighed, took a deep breath, and said, "Tomorrow, don't bring me food." Her heart skipped a beat. "Why?" "Because," he replied, his voice low, "I won't be here. And when you see me again, everything will change." The next day, Esther arrived at her stall with a plate of food in hand, expecting to see Uncle Ade's familiar face. But he was gone. She waited for days, then weeks, but he never returned. The spot where he had always sat remained empty. People who had once mocked her kindness now stared at her with curiosity, asking, "Isn't that old beggar gone now?" Esther would only say softly, "I don't know where he went," but it wasn't just about the food. It was the conversations, the stories. It was the feeling of not being alone. Her business began to struggle. The rains came, and her little stall was battered by the storm. With her savings gone, and no food left to give, Esther decided it was time to close the stall for good. She packed her things, wiped the tears from her eyes, and walked away, unsure of what the future held. She had no family, no job, no plan. Then, something unexpected happened. A sleek black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, and there, sitting in the back, was Uncle Ade, but he didn't look like the frail beggar she had known. He was dressed in a fine suit, his face clean-shaven, and his eyes now sharp and full of purpose. "Get in," he said gently. Esther froze. You're not Uncle Ade." "I am," he replied calmly. And we have much to talk about." In disbelief, Esther reached out and touched the car window, as if to confirm he was real. "You were never poor," she whispered. He smiled warmly. "I was never hungry." As they drove through the streets of Lagos, Esther couldn't process what was happening. Who was this man? Why had he tested her? Finally, Uncle Ade spoke, his voice full of emotion. "I wanted to see if real kindness still existed," he explained. "Not the kind that expects something in return, but the kind that gives everything when you have nothing." They arrived at a grand, towering building, a sight Esther could hardly believe. As they entered, a large sign above the door read Esther's place. "This is yours," Uncle Ade said, his eyes filled with pride. Esther gasped. "This can't be real." "It is," he assured her. "You've earned it." The restaurant was magnificent. It wasn't just a place for food, it was a haven where people could feel seen, appreciated, just as Esther had made Uncle Ade feel. But there was one final surprise waiting for her. As Uncle Ade walked across the floor, no wheelchair, no limp. Just strong, steady steps, he turned to her and said, "I could have walked all along. But I needed to see how people treated me when they thought I had nothing." Esther stood silent for a long time, then smiled. That smile would soon become her mission. Esther's place became more than just a restaurant. It became a symbol of love and generosity. Every evening, a special table was set aside for those who were hungry, homeless, or forgotten. No questions asked, no money needed. Esther also started a charity, Esther's Food Love, feeding hundreds every week. She never forgot where she came from, and she never stopped giving. Uncle Ade visited often, watching with pride as the woman he had tested grew into a beacon of hope for others. "You changed my life, Esther," he said one day. "Not because you built this place, but because you reminded me that kindness, when it's pure, is the greatest strength." Esther had given everything she had without asking for anything in return. And in the end, she received more than she could have ever imagined. The story of her selflessness teaches us that true kindness is rare, but when we give from the heart, life has a way of rewarding us, even when we least expect it. So, the next time you see someone in need, what will you do? Will you look away, or will you offer a helping hand, knowing that sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can change a life forever?